Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
March 18th, 2014. Inside the great Kremlin palace, every seat is filled. Ministers, generals, clergy and businessmen. The loyal machinery of the Russian state waiting for their leader. And then, the moment. Vladimir Putin says, "Crimea has always been an inseparable part of Russia in the hearts and minds of our people." The room exhales. And just like that, centuries of history, decades of borders, and months of tension are all rewritten as fate. He invokes Catherine the Great, who seized Crimea for the Russian Empire in the 18th century. He recalls the soldiers who defended Sevastopol during the Second World War, calling their blood proof of ownership. Every word is deliberate, every pause a weapon. He's not just giving a speech. He's writing a story, one in which Russia isn't invading, it's returning home. To understand why this moment matters, you have to rewind a few weeks. Ukraine, February 2014. The streets of Kyiv are burning. Protesters clash with riot police. Molotovs arc through the night sky. After months of demonstrations, President Viktor Yanukovych, Moscow's ally, flees the country. To Putin, it's déjà vu. Another color revolution. Another Western-backed uprising on his doorstep. He watched it happen before, in Georgia, in Ukraine once already, and across Eastern Europe. And now, it's happening again. For him, this isn't democracy, it's infiltration. He sees NATO flags, European politicians cheering on the protesters, and interprets it not as support, but as invasion by influence. In his mind, Ukraine is being stolen. So he decides to steal something back. While Kyiv burns, something quieter unfolds hundreds of kilometers south. In Crimea, mysterious men in green uniforms begin to appear. No flags, no insignias, no official orders. They move with military precision, polite, professional, and unmistakably Russian. At first, Moscow denies it. Local self-defense forces, they claim. But the tanks, the armored vehicles, the helicopters, they all tell a different story. Within days, airports are seized, bases surrounded, and the Ukrainian flag disappears from government buildings. A referendum is announced. The ballots are printed, and by mid-March, the results are in: 97% vote to join Russia. A miracle of democracy, achieved under armed guard. Now back in Moscow, Putin holds up that number like a shield. Everyone knows, he says, that the people of Crimea made their choice, clearly and openly. They want to be with Russia. Applause thunders through the hall. The result, laughable abroad, becomes sacred at home. Because in the playbook of power, perception always outweighs fact. If you say something loudly enough, long enough, with enough conviction, it becomes true. Putin shifts tone. From historian to victim, he turns his gaze westward. He speaks of betrayal, humiliation, and broken promises. When the Soviet Union collapsed, he says, millions of Russians found themselves outside their homeland overnight. He calls it the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. And now, he says, the West wants to keep Russia on its knees, isolated, surrounded, contained. For 20 years, he warns, we have been patient. But we have reached a line that we cannot cross. If you compress a spring too tightly, it will snap. It's part metaphor, part threat. And it lands like a punch. The audience rises to its feet. Some cheer, others wipe tears. For the first time in years, many Russians feel something they haven't in decades: pride. To his supporters, this isn't aggression, it's justice, cosmic justice. After decades of humiliation, they see Putin as the man restoring what history took away. To his critics, it's the exact opposite. The moment the mask comes off, and the empire stops pretending to be civilized. The West calls it annexation. Moscow calls it reunification. Two words describing the same act, only one comes with applause. Then comes the softer touch, the illusion of fairness. "We will respect all peoples of Crimea," Putin declares, regardless of nationality or religion. He mentions Ukrainians, Tatars, Jews. He promises protection, harmony, coexistence. It's a speechwriter's masterpiece. Conquest disguised as compassion. And yet, even as he speaks, sanctions are being drafted in Washington. Foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels. The G8 prepares to become the G7. The world outside Moscow's gilded walls knows what this really is, and it's not diplomacy. When the anthem begins, the entire hall stands. Lawmakers applaud, patriarchs bless, generals smile. Putin stands still, emotionless, as the crowd roars his name. It's not just a moment of triumph. It's the rebirth of a worldview. From that day forward, Russia stops pretending to be part of the old order. The speech becomes scripture, quoted on TV, in schools, in every new justification that follows. Donbas, Syria, 2022. Each one is a sequel to that March morning. Years later, historians still argue about that day. Was it strategy, destiny, or the inevitable result of a man who learned that the world only listens when he raises the stakes? Whatever it was, March 18th, 2014, changed everything. Because in 40 minutes, Putin turned the collapse of the Soviet Union into a personal vendetta, and Crimea into proof that Russia could defy the world and win. It was the day geography became negotiable again, the day borders could be rewritten without bullets, and the day the 21st century took a sharp turn back into the 20th. When future generations study how empires rise again, they might not start with a battle, but with a speech. Because sometimes the loudest explosions don't come from bombs or tanks. They come from applause. March 18th, 2014, the day Vladimir Putin didn't invade a country. He narrated one.